So you're telling me that I could either play the game for 20 hours around that, or I could give them $40 and get access to the good experience of the free-to-play game immediately?
Yes.
That's just about what you expect these days.
Overwatch comes out on the 4th of October. That is pretty damn soon. And it's quite funny that in many ways there are elements of the game that we don't know about. So here's what's actually happened. It's caused a bit of a minor hubbub because it absolutely looks very bad for Blizzard when it is in headline form. Because the headline that people are going to see, what people are going to feel is, if you don't already have Overwatch 1 and you do not pay $40 for the Watchpoint pack, then you have to grind for 20 hours before you get all of the characters. Now, that's definitely me packaging this up in the way that you will certainly feel the most. Mm-hmm. But undoubtedly, that is the message that has went out there. However, there are many other shooters in the world. Your CSGOs, your Valorants, there's other games like League of Legends, Dota. There are games out there that are competitive that do actually have restrictions.
Yeah.
So this is how we get into Blizzard's big plan. And while I've got you, we are Game Studio ourselves. Our first game, The Pale Beyond, an Antarctic exploration-inspired survival narrative role-playing game, is coming out this year. If you would be so kind as to check things out over on Steam, perhaps consider wishlisting, we would appreciate that dearly. Okay, so here is the situation. Overwatch have announced the defense matrix, and it has prompted headlines like this. Overwatch 2 is sounding more and more like a free-to-play nightmare. And, Matt, I do believe, at the very end of this video, we're going to have a nice little quote from Electronic Arts that perhaps could explain a little bit of thinking. But we don't even need that because, long story short, Overwatch 2 is a free-to-play game that's secretly $40 if you've never played before and don't have time to grind. That's the takeaway many have got, and that absolutely is a massive oof to be going out in but a few days to the launch of this game. However, why do we have a situation where quite a lot of broad audiences are very frustrated at this? Yet, if you were to head over to the more competitive aspects of Overwatch, perhaps the Overwatch Reddit, you may actually find quite a bit more support for what Blizzard have announced.
Yeah, sometimes Blizzard do the thing that's not necessarily popular, but is ultimately the good decision. It's very rare they actually ultimately end up being good. But in this case, everyone's going, well, this is clearly terrible from this aspect. But then you look at it from the other side and go, well, okay, why have they implemented this defense matrix and what does it do? Like, okay, well, actually, that does make sense. It still comes with all of the downsides, but it's like, it's the hard choice. And I mean, prospectively, this is why they're doing it. It's that it will make for a better experience in the long term.
Yeah, as we know from Mythic Plus in World of Warcraft, where people can feel kind of competitive, a few total assholes can kind of ruin it for you. Yeah. You know, maybe you go into a battleground and there's just a few people who are AFK. You're playing League of Legends, someone's trolling, someone's griefing, someone's feeding. These sorts of things really do ruin our gameplay experience, especially, I mean, I even remember it in PUBG. You would invest like maybe 20 minutes into a really tense match, and then someone who's clearly botting just gets you. That was also a major issue in Warzone. It is a massive problem in the games industry, more and more so with free-to-play games. And this is a problem for Blizzard, because if you're whatever, like hacking, cheating, bad-mouthing, whatever, if an account goes down, well, you just make another one, because the game is free-to-play. That's always the problem with free-to-plays, and it's why the free-to-plays have got to be so, heavy-handed in trying to fix these problems. Now, previously, these were issues, and actually in Overwatch itself, smurfing and that kind of thing was actually a problem that really did annoy people. And they did have anti-toxicity efforts, right? If you type GG easy, you will get things such as, Mummy says people my age shouldn't suck their thumbs, and gee whiz, that was fun, good playing. I'm wrestling with some insecurity issues in my life, but thank you all for playing with me.
I remember people were so pissed off when this first happened, but it was a very small group of people were turbo pissed off about it. They were the kind of people who would say GG easy and really want it to be felt. So that everyone else is like, you know what? That's actually cute enough. That's good enough. Like you could have just, not sent the message, but you translated it to take the piss out of them. And that's kind of neat.
And to be honest, the thing saying you're an insecure git That's quite funny. There's a little bit of an edge to that almost feels like surprising when you think about how Blizzard sometimes are trying to portray themselves. But anyway, They've announced the Defense Matrix Initiative, and that is the thing that has caused all of this drama. They've got their goals of ensuring a positive experience, competitive integrity, and a safer community in and out of the game. Now, there's a few parts of this, and certainly I think the one with the voice recordings, well, oh yeah, that's kind of the one. Now, there's the likes of SMS Protect. Pretty simple, loads of games use it, but the difference here is, in World of Warcraft, right? You don't need to use SMS Protect, but it has been an option for many, many, many years. Obviously, account theft and all of that was a big issue in WoW. But the thing with Overwatch is you need SMS Protect in order to launch the game, which to some people will just be, that added little layer of friction, which they won't particularly want. Now, there are also some things, there are some restrictions here, right? Prepaid and VoIP numbers will not work. Only one phone number can be used per account. And this is really a bit rough. Some Reddit users are pointing out that the service does not accept certain cell providers, like one called Cricket in the USA. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a large issue. If Cricket is a large carrier, that certainly is a pain in the ass. Yeah. And at least one benefit of something like this, or with a two-factor authentication that goes to your phone, is that if you do lose your account, with this, account retention is going to be an easier thing, right? So that's one thing that they're doing. But to actually get into the meat of it, and we will get to the whole $40 thing soon, but machine learning audio transcriptions. Now, here's the thing. We can all understand why this would be something I'd want to do. So the game will actually monitor the voice chat of matches. Now, previously, they did actually capture text logs, which is, it's a bit, but perhaps people will feel the trash talk more when it's actually a voice. So now what happens when somebody's reported is a temporary voice chat log will be collected. It will be automatically converted to text, and then the voice log will be deleted. So it does appear to be the situation, on paper, because we have had situations with other sort of similar things where, the company's like, no, this is fine. And it actually turns out, no, employees have just flat out had access to people's voice logs. So if it is just transcription of what people say, and then that can be either automatically or manually reviewed, then that could be a bit more okay to people. But the transcription is then deleted no later than 30 days after the audio bit, and they say they do not store voice chat data long term. And this is one of those really troublesome things, right, where it's all about trust. If the game was... ultimately the thing is, how does it generate the text? It needs the audio file to generate the text. That means there's an audio file. And they may say that is automatically deleted, but let's just say, maybe, because there's so many different accents in the world, so many different languages, so many highly variable microphone qualities. Mm-hmm. Even if you look at, Google Voice is pretty damn good in fairness, but, Siri can get me wrong fairly regularly, and as far as a Northern Irish person goes, I have a weird accent anyway, but generally, from YouTube and stuff, I kind of speak clearly enough, and my phone can even fuck that up, right? There's maybe people that we would know who've got, more of a thick regional accent, and, Siri would struggle. Now, there are more advanced solutions here, but what I'm getting at, though, is what if there's been a report, the text transcript is just not making sense, and then to actually action on that report, they have to go and pull up the log, the actual voice file. Now, per what they're saying here, that is impossible because that log file will have been deleted. But that's where it comes down to trust. And when humans are involved, trust is, obviously
right.
somewhat diminished. And that is, to a lot of people, this is going to be an issue.
Right. This is Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
This is as far as how people look at the company. Sure, it's a game developer, but you look at the people who are running the company, you look at all of the legal people involved, you look at the CEO, you look at the board. They are a stone's throw at most away from some of the big tech companies in terms of size, in terms of who they know, in terms of how they get up to business. No one reading this will believe this. They'll go, okay, well, that's what you're saying. Will you do it? That's the question. And I don't think anyone trusts them whatsoever with this. The same way, you hear everything coming out about what ended up having, going on Facebook and stuff.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Meta now. And it'll just be the same thing. That's what everyone just will expect. That's where that's true. Not they will give it their best because they're audited. Turns out they don't delete it. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, when will they be audited? How long will this be like, hey, this is what we can communicate to you is what the description we've handed to our software engineers for a system is. And they've told us that it's mostly there. But what actually is there? What's the processes here?
That's it. Like their explanation of this, if they could say it, would basically be along the lines of, if someone types the N-word into chat, it's very easy for them to action that. Yeah. If it happens over in-game voice, then if they don't have a way of transcribing that, they literally cannot action that. Yeah. So that is what they will say, basically. And past that point, it is about players of the game trusting that that is their intention and that they're going to use it for moderation and that, bad stuff won't happen. But, obviously, given things, you could see why people would have an issue, or just generically speaking, are not comfortable with that. Not out of any specific fear, but just out of an almost just like a modern fatigue. I mean, I'd even say, think about you and your friends. How many times a week or a month are you guys talking about something and then an obviously tracked ad for that thing appears on your phone somewhere in a timeline, right? Like, it does happen to all of us. And I think people just have like a little bit of fatigue of rumbly business going on.
People want privacy. That's it. And this is another example of going, okay, well, we will have to attack your privacy to make sure you have a completely flawless experience. And some people are like, sure, grant. And other people are like, no. But the people who say no don't have an option.
In which case, I suppose people could say, right, if you want that privacy, we'll get on to the other things soon. If you want that privacy, use Discord, use like direct VoIP. Yeah. If you really care, I'm sure like Telegram and Signal are all about being end-to-end encrypted and stuff. So, maybe there's some option out there for people, right? Like you could do that. But I suppose from Blizzard's position here, it's going to be, this is our thing. If you want to use our in-game chat service, you need to abide by these community rules. And I think generally those are rules that we would all agree with. It's just the enforcement tech and policies. And I think what's also challenging here is that, well, take Valorant, right? I mean, you hop into Valorant and it just works. There is really not a lot of bullshit. And of course, we know that Riot are pretty damn heavy-handed with the kernel level access that Valorant has. Now, a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. But perhaps what happens when you go and you play Warzone or you play PUBG and you have loads of your free time wasted because of bullshit? Like, it's hard to understate how bad the Warzone hacking situation was for the players of that game. So there's always a push and a pull. And I guess as everything gets more advanced, it's like, yeah, do we want moderation to be the equivalent of putting 10,000 psychers into the Golden Throne every single day, right? Like just, because this legit happens, some poor motherfucker who just has got to watch videos of dogs being killed because they work to a company that Meta contracts for content moderation. A lot of people would then say, how about we make the machine learning do that? And then, let's just hope the machines don't learn that. Now, to keep on going. One thing that perhaps we could say is good is instead of being uber punitive all the time, sometimes having nice little systems that actually encourage good behavior. Some sort of behavior psychology people would say that that's a good thing. So they actually have a thing here where rather than 3 categories of endorsement post-match, their plan is to endorse only one player per person, endorsement rate, and that player has got to be on your team. And if a player has a high endorsement level, they intend to actively reward you with Battle Pass experience. Now, I could see a lot of players coming in and saying, all right, but maybe I just want to be really sweaty on my own in the corner. And that's what I want to do. And I'm not going to get the XP. I'm punished. But then a lot of other people would say, oh, so let's just say somebody goes healer, does a really good job, makes some really clutch plays, is very cordial, right? Is just the sort of, you know, the way sometimes you just in a public lobby, you just find someone who's a goddamn saint and you're like, wow, I found you in the internet. That's cool. They would say that by doing something like this, you can further encourage that sort of behavior. Yep. And generally speaking, when we're playing a game, it's nicer when people are there with that behavior.
Yep. Hello, it's time to talk about behavioral psychology. So one of the things that was always very strong about Overwatch in terms of like, because games, especially nowadays, are basically amateur behavioral psychology is how they're designed. I don't know how much they're aware of this or how much this kind of accidental, but you know the way you would get like varying amounts of XP at the end of a game based on performance? That's feedback. Mm-hmm. And positive feedback and occasionally limited negative feedback are really good drivers for behavior. For people to go, oh, I want to do that again. It supports intrinsic behavior. So if you have fun and then the game says you did really well that match, it's not going to take away from the fact you had fun the way like experience sometime or the way like a reward does. But feedback actually does a good job of getting that behavior sorted. So that's the amateur way of how do we get people to do the thing? Well, it's the same. The whole basics of modern economics is built on. You give someone more reward. So, you know, okay, well, what do we want? We want someone to be good. Well, then we give them more XP for being good. There you go. Problem solved. So it's like, there are some issues with it, but fundamentally, it's like, yeah, that is going to work. It just needs to be the actually rewarding in the way that like Riot's whole honor system didn't really ever work too well for rewards.
Yeah.
But this where it's just like, hey, it's battle pass XP. So if you want to be, you know, if you want to just literally be nice, yeah, you'll get more XP. Like, okay.
Yeah. Be kind, get skins.
More
Ping system.
Yeah, that's good.
Of course, the gold standard of ping systems is in Apex Legends, so it'll be interesting to see what they do there. General chat is being removed. I think they just realized, what's the fucking point of this?
Yeah.
And then we've got, 20 minutes into the video, the FTUE. The OW2 FTUE, which is known as the first time user experience. Now, this will not apply to you if you own Overwatch, if you've played Overwatch, right, that kind of thing. This is for new players. So they've basically said that they got feedback. The new players to the game are very overwhelmed when they just see 32 heroes. Fair enough, that is kind of understanding. So they say that going forward, new players will start with limited game modes, heroes, or even the ability to chat in-game. Again, you've got to remember, this is being designed in a free-to-play game, not the premium Overwatch experience that we've been used to in the past. And that is going to take some getting used to. Now, the thing starts by unlocking all modes and chat options, and over the course of 100 matches, you'll unlock all the heroes. Now, the theory here is that you would get, like more simple heroes earlier on, right? Before you get the more, tricky ones. Now, there is a good caveat, and that is that most of these restrictions are actually lifted if you're in a group. But ranked play will be limited further because in order to access competitive mode, you need to have 50 quick play wins. Now, they say here that their aim is to acclimatize players to the game and to basically ensure that when you actually get into ranked, you've played a decent amount of this game. So essentially, the barrier to entry is higher, and they think that will make smurfing less likely, and smurfing has been a big annoyance. I mean, it's almost like smurfing, but say in World of Warcraft PvP, whenever me and Matt, as two total noobs, would go in, we'd have generally a low rating as a pair, and we'd go up against somebody getting an arena boost, where some absolute badass God of War was taking a noob through PvP. Me and Matt are roughly as good as the noob.
Yeah.
And then some absolute geared to the tits golden god kills us. And, that means it's not a good learning environment, and it's not really fun for us. That happens in games like this as well. And of course, because that barrier to entry is higher, it certainly does mean that if you're toxic or if you are cheating, it is just not going to be worth your while. Yeah. And ultimately, while that is pretty hardcore, at the end of the day, let's just say I was playing League, and Riot said to me, right, look, here's the deal. you have these hoops to jump through. What you get in return for that is 60% less dickheads.
Yeah, that's what all these FTP games have learned, and Overwatch are just doing it. But that's the thing where it's now Overwatch is no longer a premium. You buy this and then you have the experience thing, and everyone's on the same ground. It is now okay. Well, we've had to, because we've changed. We've not got a ticket at the door. We now have to actually change all of how we architect this, all of the things. We need to, like I was saying, with them being like behavioral psychology, like analytics. They basically just need to go, okay, well, now we build the system. We build all of the restrictions that we need in order to ensure good user experience. But the problem there is good user experience in this framing and how people see this, especially with the jump to free to play. People are now saying, wait, you're making it worse for new players? It's like, no, they're making it better for everyone, but it looks an awful lot like they're making it worse for new players. At the same time, they're saying, hey, Valorant got away with recording your voice, so we'll do it too. And you're like, okay.
That's exactly it. And this has been present, by the way, if you play in PlayStation native voices have this since 2020. Yeah. As you said, Valorant, since the summer of this year, has been testing this out. Ultimately, it's the sort of thing where it comes down to trust. And I think it's a situation where if you take a lot of the Overwatch audience who came to that game not being massive FPS fans before, or perhaps if you take younger players toward that, they're going to be more okay with that because they're not going to have some like, oh, this is a change from what I'm used to. When we were playing games when we were kids, I'm not saying that this was like a good thing or whatever, but you just hop on a Call of Duty server or some random vent server or wherever, like it is the Wild West. It is completely lawless. And I think now for Blizzard and for all of these companies, and they're kind of like now running these platforms, I think they also get worried that there is more and more like oversight, that they're expected to have more responsibility for the behavior that goes on their platform. So not only is this stuff going wrong going to be a customer service problem, business problem, general headache, they also might be worried about the negative press. I mean, remember the Counter-Strike murder?
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, I'm not saying that that any of these systems would have made that not happen, but that's just an example of like, whoa, like this thing suddenly got IRL and now that's a negative story. And we're in this world where, stories get really, really, really big. I mean, what happens if you try to type in some things related to, I believe the country's called Taiwan, I think.
Oh, yes.
And that gets auto-muted in games. Now, does that get auto-muted in games because of an ideological position of the people in that company? Almost certainly not.
No.
It's for the beans. It's for the beans, man. It's all for the beans.
It's for the money and also out of fear. Because I think that you bringing up the whole like it used to be the Wild West is basically everyone felt that about the entire internet. And now Overwatch was a little bit Wild Westy because you just bought the game and were allowed in whatever else. Sure, there was some kind of like decent oversight and moderation, but it is fundamentally the difference between how video games used to feel online and how they are now. And one is it boils down to people are no longer in charge of their own experience. It's now the developers in charge of the experience, the business is in charge of the experience, the platform's in charge, as opposed to the platform going, hey, people are free to do whatever they want on our platform. We'll stop the worst fit, but it's about people interacting. Now it's more about curating the user experience, and it has to be squeaky clean. It has to be a perfect experience because otherwise people are like, no, well, I'll go somewhere else. Instead of, you only played one video game and you had a real shit day and someone was a bell end. So you were like, okay, well, I'll go join another server. Fuck that guy. And that's the whole, like, that's how the world has profoundly changed in the past, 20 years, less than 20 years, actually, in the last 15, 16 years. It's very much become that way, and it's just this manifests when Activision Blizzard go, hey, we're going to do what everyone else has been doing for a long time, and everyone's like, you're doing what? And that's not even to defend it, because I still I can understand the reasoning. There are other reasons that we're about to get into that I think are a little bit kind of more hey, here's the good reason we're presenting, and they won't present all of the other reasons that they also did it. They don't want people to kind of not think about, and that's what we kind of obviously the thing is, well, you make the new experience worse by making people grind for it. So how does that relate to what we brought up at the top of the video about this game being, as Ethan Gash put it, Overwatch 2 is sounding more and more like a free-to-play nightmare? Well, that's all of the little positives they're going to get out of this system. So it goes back to whenever we were talking about Kiriko being in the Battle Pass, and the fact was, okay, well, but the whole point of this game is the hero switching and that kind of design element. So this is not really helpful or like healthy for the game overall. They clearly just don't care about that, because now the point is, you have to go and grind out all these heroes in the name of being a good user experience. We get onboarded to the game softly because they got the negative feedback, but they also want a broad audience base. So they want to onboard people really gently, which is fair enough. But as we were talking about before, it doesn't mesh with the core design of the game too well. But according to Kotaku, right, they said it's about 20 hours to unlock everything in this game. That's because it's like 100 matches of quick play and they take 10 to 15 minutes apiece. And then, it's like 50 games to play ranked as well. So hopefully you'd have won.
You
Hopefully
better hope
50
you're
with
at
that.
a
Yeah.
nice 50% win rate.
Yeah, exactly. But the idea is, it fundamentally boils down to the free-to-play thing, right? Where you go, okay, well, that's kind of a nice little soft onboarding experience, but it's also 20 hours of constantly unlocking, constantly earning, constantly grinding things. And that is just going to turn you into a pure grind machine whose experience of this game is, I'm on the treadmill going as hard as I possibly can.
This is, in the business, what we call bing, bing, wahoo. That will just be constant unlocks. Now, if you were concerned about being a player who is grandfathered in with all of those characters from launch and you're thinking, wait, do I need to win 50 matches in quick play before I can get ranked? Currently, their wording suggests that this is just for the new first-time player, so you should be able to hop into ranked, which, that feels good. I think this is more about stopping an incoming sort of like a new influx, I suppose, of disaster from coming in. So ultimately, that's that situation. The other side of it then, as is pointed out by Kotaku, is the $40 Watchpoint pack, because that's the only way to own Overwatch 1 currently, because Overwatch 1 was pulled from sale. So if you just buy the Watchpoint pack now, I'm not recommending you do that, by the way, but like straight up facts, even if you haven't played Overwatch before, bang, you won't have to do the big grind.
Wait, so you're telling me that I could either play the game for 20 hours around that, or I could give them $40 and get access to the good experience of the free-to-play game immediately?
Yes.
That's just about what you expect these days. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunate. Blizzard, they would have been safe if they said anyone who had a Overwatch account from before the date of the Watchpoint pack. Yep. Because then people could buy the Watchpoint pack if they wanted those cosmetics. I suppose no, it would then screw over the people who bought the Watchpoint pack because they were excited about Overwatch 2 and then played a bunch of Overwatch 1.
Yeah.
So I understand the problem, but it is absolutely an uncomfortable situation, right? Now, in fairness, Blizzard have not been drawing attention to the fact that it's like this. Yeah. They didn't in the marketing email to you. Mm-hmm. Currently, though, with the Watchpoint pack, we're not really aware, as best as I could tell, if that will disappear.
No, there's nothing to suggest the Watchpoint pack will disappear. So in terms of you should be able to pay $40 instead of playing for 20 hours, that seems like it will be the case.
So this app, undoubtedly, that is the worst thing here. They just need to say no. Make it so the Watchpoint pack gets the skins, but from that date of Overwatch, now even if they did that, they would have an uncomfortable situation over the weekend, let's just say, where it very much does look like they're saying 20-hour grind or $40. Because a lot of people are going to see that and just think, 20 hours before I can get to the thing that I want. Also, I don't literally know how I unlock heroes, so maybe the hero that I enjoy the most is towards the end. $40, $2 an hour. I'm paid $15 an hour. Yep. So that is, honestly, it's like, based on how they did the Diablo 4 Battle Pass in such a way that, because there are some boosts on the Battle Pass, but in such a way that paying absolutely does not give you access to them. Like you have to do the in-game stuff to earn them. They were so careful to do, to get that bit right, that it's a bit odd that they let this here, unless you realize that this maybe is not just a little occurrence, that it's happenstance, and that it is in fact planned. Because it's a free-to-play game, but what happens if you got a free-to-play game, but you want to earn money?
Where's the money?
Where's the money?
Yeah, so there's another cynical avenue to look at this, which is a kind of principle, because I've been thinking an awful lot about mobile games, not because I like them, not because I play them, but in terms of how,
God help you.
Because Activision Blizzard King. We call them Activision Blizzard, they're Activision Blizzard King. They know all the principles. So you look at the kind of, what does having to grind for 20 hours mean? Like we discussed earlier, it's a treadmill. You get the dopamine loop of, you unlock thing, feels good. Or you pay the $40, which unlocks everything. So clearly the $40 seems like not a great idea, but it's all about sunk cost. It's the same with all free-to-play games, same with every game that tries to get you really onboarded super fast. It's in order to get you to feel good and feel attached to the game. Like, I did spend those 20 hours. I might as well spend a little bit more. I might as well give ranked a try. I played 100 games, unlock everything, and I've got 45 wins. Hell, I'll get 5 more wins and then go play ranked. And then the loop of ranked will kick in. Be that the fun gameplay loop that you enjoy, which is a good thing, or you're playing ranked for the feedback of I want to win, I want my shiny number to go up, or I want my shiny to be even shinier. And that's the thing of, this is all stuff that's part of the system design, part of the core design of the game. Because obviously there's all the game design, but then there's all the game design that goes in as well. And to bring kind of the quote that's been in my head every time we talk about free-to-play, every time we think about free-to-play, almost every goddamn game we get to talk about here now. This is something from EA. From a little while ago that Stephen Totillo from Axios, I think it was a Goldman Sachs meeting with EA. Because, of course, that's got nothing to do with video games. That's all about the money. And they were talking about, like, community creating stuff, the kind of the whole, why should we make games when community can make content, etc.
Yeah.
But one of the quotes from Andy Wilson, the CEO, was, "Minutes engaged and money spent correlates on almost a one-to-one basis." So that's why when you go into a free-to-play game, you want to be, it's free-to-play, so now you have to grind a little bit harder. And everyone accepts that. But that means you spend more time in game, which means you're more likely to spend money.
Yeah, you're well educated in the value of the in-game purchases. As you feel the time of playing the game, yet yearning for the rewards.
Yep, absolutely.
That's it. And even in the games that, are like, I would say generally fair and above board, like take Fortnite. There's no gameplay impacting shit there whatsoever. But for some people, they're going to look at the new Battle Pass and they're going to see, holy shit, Gwen from Spider-Verse is at the bottom of the tier. And then they're going to realize that is a lot of playing Fortnite. Maybe I'll get the boost, right? So that's ultimately how it works. As for Overwatch 2, it's a tricky situation because as a gamer, I actually
sorry to hear that.
Do really like shooters. I like shooters of so many varieties. Me and you played Valorant recently. I was playing the Modern Warfare 2 beta. I really like how Modern Warfare 2019 played. I think Modern Warfare 2 felt great. I really enjoyed Overwatch when it came out. I know that Overwatch 2 is almost certainly going to be like a game made by game designers that I will enjoy. Mm-hmm. For me, these things, like Valorant basically has most of what's here. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I log into Valorant and there's good games to play.
But it's not Blizzard.
So it ends up being okay. But yeah, that's it. I think Blizzard are beginning to realize that the reputation needs to be earned back because there is a massive level of default skepticism. And certainly that whole Watchpoint Pack interaction, well, that bit's pretty rough. Pretty damn rough. Because it's not just that. The Watchpoint Pack, you must remember, includes the first season's premium battle pass that also itself does include the new hero with an instant unlock. So they are also just kind of saying, by the way, do you want on day one Kiriko and all original heroes? Watchpoint Pack.
$40, please.
$40, please.
Please buy our free-to-play game.
Yeah. And it is the sort of thing where if you got all that content for $40 in a premium game, you'd be really happy.
Hell yeah, yeah.
But the whole point of it being a free-to-play game is it is, of course, designed to do the old continuous extraction for a long time. So it's a bloody interesting situation. that's it with Overwatch 2. I suppose my leaving question to you would be Valorant versus Overwatch 2. You know, what makes one okay? What makes one less okay? Ultimately, is it pretty similar things across two games that are trying to be, some form of competitive shooter? That's the question. So I'll leave that one with you. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.